With me is Sidharth Jain. When we think about nepotism, Bollywood, outsiders, we end up dismissing some stories from our radar. Names that do not come on primetime television but who have quietly but surely proven that they can rule Bollywood. And one such person is Sidharth Jain. He is a producer in Bollywood. He has just recently, it's not very recent in some ways, Trial by Fire is a much loved web series, and and it earns accolades yesterday, day before yesterday, in the future. I mean, it's just rocking. And before that, also he started his journey as a producer, being a co-producer of Ragini MMS, and I think that was also a very interesting journey. I mean, Sidharth Jain is one person that you can legitimately ask how to be a producer as an outsider in the business. So Sidharth, can you tell me how a producer's job looks like? What does a producer do, and how can one be a producer in Bollywood?
Thank you, Tarun, for having me on on your show. I wish I was ruling Bollywood, but itna rule bhi nahi hai. But being a producer, first of all, to be a producer, you have to uh, be prepared for doing the most thankless job in the industry. Because the producer's job, I feel, is least appreciated. It's not glamorous at all. It's hard work 7 days a week, and everybody else will make money, and the producer is not sure if he'll actually make money at the end of the project. But it's also the most fulfilling job, especially if you're a producer like me who falls in love with the stories that you want to produce and is really involved on the creative side. So there are different kinds of producers, right? You can be a producer if you're very good in execution. You can be the line producer. So your then core skill is executing a project that's already financed. You can be a creative producer where your job is to really find a story and have it developed up to a point, and then you can uh, collaborate with other producers, take it forward. You can be a producer whose primary thing is to just finance. In India, especially, producers used to be financiers. In the West, when I started my career from Los Angeles 17, 18 years ago, I saw for the first time that over there, a producer is the guy who's not really financing. And he's the guy who really is right from the first stage. What is the story? Who will write it? Who will direct it? Who will finance it? And then right till how will you release it? How will you market it? So the whole value chain, the one person who's common from day one till the last day is the producer. That's why the producer's job is most difficult. It's also a job where he has to be jack of all, because he's the person who has to deal with every department, with every professional who's part of it, and also needs to understand storytelling, scripting, writing, has to identify the right people, the right talent. So it's a very specialized kind of a job.
It's a very entrepreneurial job where one
that's
is
the right
defined
word.
by,
I would say each film is like a startup that you start from scratch.
and every time. So Siddharth, one aspect that also is very important nowadays is that money, lack of money is not the big issue nowadays. You see, when you cruise past Andheri, Juhu, every lane there are 3 or 4 producers and production houses and people who have spent money on movies, and 80% of the producers lack the wherewithal, the quality to produce a work that one can be proud of, or that reaches mainstream attention. And you've been one of those who have made it to that 20% or league that has made sure that your work is appreciated. It stands alongside the best works in the industry. So how can what are the 2, 3, 4 tips you would like to give to new producers who want to ensure that their quality of work is such that it lands up in the front seat?
See, first of all, I think uh, to become a producer, you need to understand how the business and the industry operates. Just opening a production house, registering a company and saying, I want to be a producer, does not make you a producer. You have to find your own space within the ecosystem, and that comes at a price. You have to sacrifice a lot of things. You have to spend many years knowing different kinds of people in the industry. You have to be useful to the industry. For example, I have been wanting to be a producer since 20 years now, been in this since 20 years. Started with helping people raise finance. That's how I became a co-producer. When I made my international film with Salman Khan. I then
Marigold.
I started my career with that, and that time my only contribution was to help raise finance for the project, for the very difficult project. And being an entrepreneur, I thought, I can do that. So you have to find ways of first contributing to the industry and the ecosystem. So, like I said, raising finance, finding the right talent, finding the right story, executing it, selling, all of these are different areas where first you have to make your mark. You may fail, but you have to know how to do it. If you will fail, you will know how to do it better the next time. But you have to be persistence based in this industry. You have to be around. People need to know that you're not a fly-by-night operator. You're not a person who is here today. ये नहीं चलेगा तो छोड़ के चला जाएगा. Set up a hotel or a restaurant or get into different business. You have to be around because everybody wants to work with people who are serious about this and they're going to be here in the long term. So establish yourself even at an early stage as a person who has a long-term vision, has the persistence to stay for long, and then you will attract the right people who can give you the right quality of work. Otherwise, why will somebody who is experienced, has great talent work with you as a producer? What is that quality that you have or that you bring to the table as a producer that will attract the right material and
directors,
talent?
writers.
Why will they want to work with you?
Actors.
There's so many producers.
Yeah.
And these are the directors produce.
Yeah.
So why you? So everybody has to think of why me. What is it?
Like even as a financer, as a financing producer, if one wants to work with a hotshot trending talent, there will be a queue. I mean, it will be very difficult to make it to the.
There's a queue for everything today.
Yeah, because financing also has a queue.
Yeah.
That's the thing we sometimes often overlook. Now. Let's say there are so many kinds of modules, financial models of making a film and making money. Now, as I understand, a film makes money after it's released in cinema hall. There is a collection that is divided between distributors, cinema hall owners, and the producers. Then the rights are sold at OTTs, and again there is a split. I mean, there's a one-time fee, perhaps, in revenue share.
Yeah.
And then there is satellite rights and so on and so forth. In your experience, and how has the how often do films make money? Like once you've released it decently and you have something to offer to the viewer, generally.
So see, there are broadly, I think, 3 kinds of films that get released. One is a film that gets released in the theatre. That can also be of 2 types. One is a film that you've made, you sold it to a studio. The studio releases the film. So as a producer, you've sold the film, hopefully at a profit. So you're safe, and if there's an upside, you get something of it. The other is where you're not able to sell the film, so you try and release the film yourself as a producer. That becomes extremely risky because all the risk is on you to recover not only the cost of the project but also the cost of marketing and distribution. Right? The third is you may go and sell a film to a streaming company. So then there's no box office. You get a fixed price for it. And that's about it. So the probability of making money. So the highest probability is that if you sell it to somebody for a revenue share, then you've cut your losses. I mean, you've got your minimum money back in, you've made your profit, and you're there for the upside. Very few big film star films can sell like that. Say, for example, Animal must have sold like that. These are big stars. So if you don't have the big stars, in all probability, you have to release the film yourself through some kind of a partnership with a P&A investor or a distributor who will say, I'll distribute it, but you put in the money for marketing. So those models are very risky. And I think most investors probably end up losing money in that model. Unless you have a big star, you can sell that to a studio. The third one is, like I said, you can make your film and go and sell to an OTT streaming platform and premiere it. that used to be extremely profitable during COVID times because OTTs wanted more content.
Demand was
Yes, but now the demand is not that high at all. So only if a film is really good, will they buy it? And if they buy it, then you get a fixed price and you can make a profit. So it really depends that what's your film type, what kind of...
And I was just studying the story of how smaller films are made. Like realistically, when outside film financer or a producer is trying to make an entry, chances of his working with a sort of a known cast is high, and his probability of working with in a project with a lot of trending names is low.
Yeah.
So what I have seen is that there is a certain math. Maybe if it is a okay made film, people tend to release it on film festivals, and then theater folks and digital folks say, okay, let's take it.
But that math has gone haywire now after COVID. I think all this maths used to still work pre-COVID because you would do a release for a film, and the audience had the habit of going to the theaters almost every weekend, and then you would sell part of the film for music rights and for satellite rights. With COVID, the habit of going to the theaters kind of got altered. So theatrical is not a very dependable window at all. Like last year, maybe 4-5 films made money. That's about it. And so the theatrical window is not dependable. You may or may not get the value from satellite and digital.
So one more boring money question. There's a thing called insurance, right? Film insurance. Does that protect the financiers and producers?
No. Film insurances during shooting, if there's an incident, somebody has an accident, or there's rain, or there's some kind of a disruption in your execution, insurance covers that. It does not cover your business risk of sales.
But it covers your disruption.
In execution.
Yeah.
If you make a bad film, no insurance company is going to bail you out.
So Sidharth, let's move to the one of the other interesting aspect of your life. Just 4-5 years ago, you were working at a studio, and then you started a platform to curate books for studios and film producers and makers, and then you made your own web series.
Yeah.
And now you have come up with a platform that will provide consulting to anybody who seeks it, consulting from people who know what their job is. So how has this, what is it that one can learn from you? Like, it's a big comeback story. Like, in a way, I can't think of a better comeback story. Like, okay, from pandemic, from here to here, I mean, it's a very remarkable journey. What do you think what's it that you would want to say to people who want to make a comeback?
I mean, now that you're saying it, it seems like it was a good journey. But I don't. The way I think I can talk about that. Every day that I wake up, the question that I ask myself is, how am I useful to the industry? How am I relevant to the industry? If I'm not relevant and I'm not useful, then I'm useless. If I'm useless, nobody will pay me a single penny for anything. If I'm useful, I can charge for my services or whatever I do. And to be useful, I have to be relevant, right? So when I left Hotstar in 2017, I realized towards the end of 2017, and I started Story Inc. in 2018, I realized at that time that so many streaming companies are going to come in the market. They will want content. They will go to producers. Producers will say, okay, great, we'll make shows and films for you. But what will they make? Nobody was answering that question. I thought that was a problem for the industry. And because I had a natural affinity to books and stories, and I should run my own development company many years ago called iRock, I just felt that it's a good thing for me to do because I will probably be good at it. And that's why I started the Story Inc. And I think the company was relevant when I started 2018, 2019, 2020. Then COVID happened, and I thought, you know what, our producers won't have enough money to put in development risk because COVID was testing times for us. So then I again asked myself the same question: how do I make myself relevant and useful? So I thought maybe now's the time to use all my development experience and start developing interesting shows and films and scripts. So I started getting on board writers. We have almost 15 writers in-house on salary. We write everything in-house. And that's how I started House of Talkies as the second company. We made Trial by Fire because that was a very compelling story that I wanted to tell. Luckily, things fell into place despite COVID. And then last year I was thinking 2023 that okay, now we have a good production slate. We got 4 series in production. We got 2 films in production for this year, next year. So we've set up that's now become a stable business for us. Story Inc., which was curating books, I felt was not as useful now as it was in 2018. So then I asked myself, what is the problem right now that the industry is facing? And I had 2 insights. One insight is that 95% of the freelance workforce in the content business, right? They work on project basis. So there are times when they're very busy, there are times when they are not busy. So when they're not busy and they don't have a project, what do we do with the time? I call that time unutilized inventory of the time. So that was one insight. And the other insight that I had was that a lot of people around who are younger, early stages of the career, they might do a course. But if they need any real help during their professional career, instant help from an expert, how do they access those experts who are legit, genuine people who could be happy to give
Their
advice?
time, yeah.
So I thought let's marry the two and let's create and use technology to create a seamless platform where anybody who's seeking any kind of consulting or guidance can come to the platform. He can find a consultant of choice, book a slot, pay for it and get his time. Or he can listen to a webinar, upgrade knowledges. We're also going to start courses. So a way to upgrade yourself and make your content better, your career better and get guidance. So I feel that was an important thing for me to solve. So I've just solved that problem this week by launching this website.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's very interesting that. So the starting point for your journey is like, okay, how am I useful? That's very interesting. Sidharth, one thing that was also interesting is that you've been creating books for producers and all, and one of the grounds or one of the aspects of book adaptation is there isn't enough money to give you a book for adaptation. Is there enough money in best selling hot stuff books? Like, are there some authors that can command a lot of money as of now?
Yeah, of course. There are always some authors who have sold lots of books because of which they become popular celebrity authors, and then because they're known, they have fans. So if you take their story, you can pay a premium for it. But I think it's kind of, there was a period of 2 years when I started between 2018 to 2020 where that hype was there and that mad scramble was there. But I think the last 2 years things have become cooler, calmer, more pragmatic and reasonable. And nowadays the problem is not the story. The problem is once you've taken the book, who will write the screenplay, who will create the pitches, who will create the material, how will you package the project with talent so that
who will champion the
book. So now packaging and creating the writing material has become very difficult. Finding the right screenplay writers to create material that the right director will come on board, hence the right actor and the right financer. So those steps are more difficult now. So even if you get a very known author, you paid a lot of money for his rights, that does not definitely mean that it will turn into a project.
Yeah, he'll get made.
So because of that uncertainty, the prices have become more reasonable and practical. The hype has gone away.
It's like a cycle in a way, maybe, as you're saying.
Sure.
Sidharth, you've built your, you've done your production house, you've done your business in a self-funded mode as a standalone without having any financing partner, and you have previously done business like a startup with investors from outside. Now post-COVID, there seems to be a possibility again that with external funding one can scale really fast. So what journey is the better of the journeys? What do you find?
So I think when I raised capital, many years ago for my earlier startup company, I wasn't as experienced. Now, given the experience that I had and also a bunch of failures, this time around both my companies, Story Inc. is 6 years old and House Doc is 2 years old. We haven't yet raised money. It's still bootstrapped, self-funded. But I think this year I will probably raise capital in both the companies so that we can scale up. But I think now with all the experience that we have, that I have, I think, and the team that we have, the opportunities have become a many-fold for us, and we can only take advantage if we scale up.
If there's capital to scale up.
Yeah. So this year I will be looking at raising capital in both the companies.
Like in this, when we come to capital raising and all, why is media and entertainment industry not such a hot property amongst investors? Or is it just because there are not enough entrepreneurs who are building scalable stuff? What do you think? Is it the lack of supply?
I think there are a bunch of reasons. Couple of them,
like UTV and TVF, they have proven that. Wow,
yeah. So thing is, like either you raise, the problem with raising capital in media is that one is largely most companies that become successful are run by filmmakers who are not entrepreneurs and who are not that savvy on how to manage expectations, manage finance, and be answerable to an investor, because you're largely an individual filmmaker who's become a company and you want to control and own everything, and you get usually funded by studios on projects.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think
a service provider model.
Yeah, so there were very few entrepreneur producers earlier. Now I think it's changing. That's one. The other thing is, I think the business inherently, because it's so subjective, creativity. You might love your script, but I don't. The risk is too high. And also, if you invest in a production company, most production companies can't scale beyond a point. So there are a lot of reasons why investors don't find this industry as exciting, unless you're in the business like Netflix streaming. Market is very large.
It's a marketplace.
Yeah. So then it's different. Like for example, I feel Story Inc. .com that we have now.
Story Inc. is there.
Now this can be scaled because it's a platform, a tech platform.
Yeah.
It's not like a 1 story, 5 story, 20 story company. So I feel as we have businesses that are scalable, transparent, maybe driven by tech, and have enough of entrepreneurial capability, then only it will attract the right investor and becomes investable.
Okay, like just two question to wrap up. It's my own curiosity maybe. See, in movie industry, we have had this Anurag Kashyap model of making a movie, where you make a movie at such a low cost that it becomes feasible. You do your thing, but do it at such a low cost that nobody is unhappy. In the startup space, do you think that kind of a game is still to be explored? Is there a game that's available? What do you think?
So I think whether it's low cost or high cost, and if you take Anurag's example, his low cost works because his quality is very high.
Yeah.
Right. So low cost, low quality will not work. Yeah. Low cost, high quality.
The highest
works.
Quality for the low
high
cost.
High cost, high quality works. So anything that's high quality, and again, high quality is subjective. Each person can feel high quality is different for them. But I think the relevant quality at the right cost is what will actually work.
Yeah, like if this is the outcome and it can be made at
you
this
may
cost.
Make a film for 1 crore, but if it is so irrelevant that nobody's interested in watching it,
or it can be 35 lakhs for Shahid, and then whatever, everything works.
35 crores.
35 lakhs, right? Shahid.
Shahid the movie. Yeah. I mean, he made Ragini MMS for 60 lakhs.
Yeah. So okay, now coming to Ragini MMS and all, a very technical question. Movies are made on Arri Alexa, Sony Venice, but there are also movies being made on FX9, FX6. So do you think that these smaller cameras can make very fantastic movies and costs can be?
See,
of course it's relevant. If it has to be relevant to the story and all, it's.
I'm not a technical expert, but I'll say one thing, that the choice of camera really comes from your DOP and what kind of film you want to shoot and how you want to shoot. Like we shot Ragini MMS on Canon 5Ds in 2010. It was the first film at that time to be shot on digital in India. It was the first film to be shot for theatrical on a Canon 5D. In fact, in 2010, if I remember correctly, when we were shooting for this Ragini MMS, there were not enough cameras available in India. So Prime Focus imported the cameras for us specifically, and they didn't even have a digital post-production setup. They created one with this film. So they really supported us in making it happen. Now at that time we needed it because I had to put 4 cameras in the house and show it as found footage. So the format worked for us. Putting big reel cameras, film cameras there, or big size cameras would not have worked. So it really depends on the kind of
Story and
film, story,
film,
treatment, budget, scale, DOP, his confidence, the lighting you want to do. It's so many factors, right? And I would leave such things not to producers to figure, but to the experts to decide, which is the DOP and the director. I mean, I'm very clear that I don't want to make decisions in departments where I'm not the best.
So we wrapped up with a very interesting question on on a very interesting topic. Ragini MMS 60 lakhs and still selling, still streaming, still being licensed. So any final words you have for our viewers?
No, I think the only thing I can say is that be very clear about how can you contribute to the industry or to a project, and make sure that you're self-aware. Self-aware in the sense that be clear about your superpower, be clear about what you can do amazingly well, and bring that to the table. Then usually things will work out. But when we try to not focus on what we are amazing at, that's when the results don't really pan out to our expectations.
Very interesting take. I think that's a repeated feed in some way or the other that has come in other chats as well. So thanks a lot, Sidharth. And I think where do we tune in for your consulting platform?
Just simple, thestoryinc.com.
It has everything.
Yeah, it's got everything there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.